Okay, I have received dozens of emails and tweets and comments asking me to weigh in about what's currently happening with the online left. As many of you know, I really don't watch much online political media. I limit myself to the stuff I read to be ready to do the show. And then I have other interests and limited time each day. But I am sort of aware of a bunch of the different things that have been going on with the online left. And I want to talk about it a little bit because I do think that it's actually, there's a lot to say here. Now, as I understand it, there's a few different controversies happening right now. I am very much aware of Young Turks host Cenk Uygur and also Young Turks host Anna Kasparian embroiled in, again, if I understand it correctly, it's a couple of different controversies. One is specifically related to another host named Jimmy Dore and sexual harassment or harassment, as some like to say. And then another kind of more general controversy is between Cenk and the Young Turks and a sort of contingent of the authoritarian revolutionary left that has a presence online. People like Glenn Greenwald and others. I'm not exactly sure who else is part of this. And so a few things are going on there. And then on the other hand, it seems as though there was kind of a shakeup at the Hills Rising and there are new hosts there. And that seems to be going pretty poorly from the one thing I read about it. And the question I've basically been getting from people in the audience is whether the online left is tearing itself apart in a way that is counterproductive to the progressive movement, and whether the left has become overrun with grifters. So let's take these questions one at a time. And I want to say I was actually just interviewed for a podcast by Cliff Schechter and John Aravosis, where we talk quite a bit about this, and we're going to publish this over the weekend. And we talk a lot about this issue. If the topic interests you, there's probably 20 minutes of this stuff in that episode, which we'll publish to our YouTube channel. So first of all, the fact that there are different views on the quote left is not bad. It's not a source for concern. And it's always been my perspective that diversity of opinion is fine and good and should be applauded and welcomed. What has been a concern for me has been the increased gatekeeping that I've seen some on the left engage in, which includes call outs about who really is or isn't on the left. I've received many of those, as well as kind of shaming people for views and generally unproductive insults when somebody doesn't line up 100% with your political perspective. Generally speaking, diversity of opinion is good. It's not a problem in and of itself. What is a problem is when people start to focus merely on calling out others, either for personal reasons or for clicks or for money or to gatekeep or to virtue signal or for whatever reason they do it. So I'm going to give you an example. When Jimmy Dore has attacked me, he did on Twitter during the election period last year. I've mentioned my views differ from Jimmy Dore's, but I don't base my show and my identity around calling out people like Jimmy Dore with whom I have differences of opinion. First of all, it just seems so boring. Secondly, it's so childish. Third, what would I even get from doing that? It would probably be profitable. And I've jokingly talked with others about who should I start a fake beef with because it gets attention. But it's just not me. It's not productive in any real sense. Now, the issue of grifters is a complicated one. And when I say grifter, what I mean is someone is creating a persona and covering stories or taking positions or covering stories in a way that doesn't represent who they really are, either because they've decided I can concoct this persona and appeal to a certain audience, or it's going to be profitable in some way. I might get paid speaking gigs or whatever the case may be. Now, here's what I can say about that. I'm going to give you a list of people that I know are not grifters. And what I mean by that is whether we agree or disagree on any particular issue, what you see them say publicly lines up completely with what they say privately. They are not playing characters. They're not calculating their positions for how it's going to be perceived by their audiences or for profitability. And the reason I'm able to give you this list is because I know both these people's public work as well as knowing them privately as individuals. And in no particular order, here are people that are not grifters. Cenk and Anna from the Young Turks. I've known them both for a long time. If you talk to them privately, what they say is exactly what they say on their show. We don't have to agree about everything. Surely I'd have differences with them about, for example, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but they are totally sincere in what they say and what they believe would be best for the world. I am totally sincere in what I say. There is no grift or calculation there. Great. Okay. Sam Cedar from the Majority Report. I've been to what must be at this point 15 or 20 conferences with Sam over the years where we spend hours together. Every political conversation I've had with Sam and that I've heard and overheard Sam have with other folks, including people from the revolutionary left, etc., the public Sam and the private Sam is exactly the same person. No grift. Kyle Kulinski. I've hung out with Kyle and I've talked to Kyle a ton over the years. The Kyle you see on his YouTube channel, as far as I know, and again, I don't watch a lot of this stuff online, it's the same Kyle that I know privately. Farron Cousins from Ring of Fire is the same guy politically, privately as he is publicly. Nomiki from the Nomiki Show. I've known her for probably a decade. Private Nomiki and public Nomiki are the same person. This is not someone who I guess we traditionally consider to be on the left. And this, I don't know how my audience will react to this. Joe Rogan, whatever your problems are with the things Rogan says. And I recently did a video where I said, I disagree with what Joe is saying about vaccination. I think he's mistaken. There is no act there. I can tell you Rogan 5 minutes before the show starts and an hour after and on the show. It's the real Rogan. OK, now anybody outside of this list, some of them are grifters, but many of them I just don't know privately. So I can't really say. I don't know well enough to say their public persona is different than the person they are in private, either for profit or not. Some I don't want to name names because then I'm just engaging in the same stuff. But there are plenty of grifters. So then the question is the grifting going to tear the left apart? But probably not. Some people will make money and are making money with the grifting, with the calculated fake personas. There are others who will then make money from attacking the grifters and on and on. It's not really my thing. I don't think it's particularly good for the progressive movement to have people with retrograde ideologies passing themselves as being on the left. You know, if you are an authoritarian or a faux populist, or you defend or sympathize the authoritarians or the faux populists and the dictators and the strongmen, I would question whether you're really on the left. It's not a left I recognize, but I don't know that it's really going to tear the left apart. A lot of these movements seem way bigger if you look at Twitter and Reddit and YouTube than they really are. But it's going to continue being profitable, so it's going to continue. That's basically my take. And a lot of it is very boring. A lot of it is extraordinarily childish. And the unfortunate reality is that to some degree, we're all slightly narcissistic. And what I mean by that is anybody who, I mean, okay, if you're neurodivergent, then this may not apply. Okay. But for people who are, you know, not autistic and you decide I'm going to have a show where I give my opinion, there's some degree of narcissism there. There has to be, because somewhere you believe that your opinion may be as opposed to or different than millions and millions and millions of people who it never occurs to do a show. Your opinion is of some value, entertainment, or it's something that other people would want to listen to. So you're going to have a lot of interesting and different personalities in this space. But within that, there's a huge, huge spectrum. And by its nature, you're going to get this stuff within the space. And I think that there are aspects of it that aren't good for the progressive movement, but I don't think it's ultimately going to be destructive in the way that some believe it's going to be, because much of the survival of this very space, the online left, depends on conflict and depends on controversy. And so the idea that it will become a distraction from policy, sure, but it's not going to destroy the space overall. We'll have more of this on our Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram at David Pakman Show, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. One of our sponsors is Curiosity Stream, a subscription streaming service that offers thousands of documentaries from some of the world's best filmmakers, including titles you can't find anywhere else. If you are serious about watching documentaries and you don't have Curiosity Stream, I don't even know what you're doing. My girlfriend and I have not been able to get enough Curiosity Stream. We can watch it on the TV, smartphone, iPad, all of the devices. They have documentaries on politics, history, science, economics, technology. I recently watched Berlin 1945. Super interesting. Hopefully in advance of being able to actually visit Berlin as things open up. Really excellent film. CuriosityStream is always adding new titles. I have definitely noticed a lot of great stuff on CuriosityStream that's not available on Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon. When you go to curiositystream.com/Pakman, you will get unlimited access to the world's top documentaries. And for my viewers, because you're so great, when you use the promo code Pakman, you'll get 25% off a subscription, making it only $14.99 a year.